there would always be this, oh yeah, but you could have done it a little bit harder and gone diagonally, or but you could have done it this, or so I decided, I had to make it as difficult as I could, as difficult as feasible. So I wanted to go diagonally across in the winter and against the wind.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Lionheart Radio. Today I interview Rob Jones, and we decided to drop this as a bonus episode because I learned about what he was doing. He's an adaptive athlete that's getting ready to run 31 marathons in 31 days. And it's really cool because we talk about his journey and like why he's raising money, which is why I was so eager to have him on and drop this episode soon so that you can all learn about what he's doing and hopefully get involved if you feel inclined to do so. So we talk about robjonesjourney.com. And that's a way for you to get involved. You can donate to the veteran charities that he's raising money for. And also you can register to go out and run some of these marathons with him. So I've kind of thrown down the gauntlet. Lionheart Radio is going to donate, and I'm going to join him for at least one of these marathons, but I'm looking at a couple other ones as well. Yeah, so I would love to see you out there supporting badass people doing badass things in this world. So without further ado, Rob Jones' journey. All right, thanks for tuning in to Lionheart Radio. I'm your host, Rick Alexander, founder of Louisvive LLC, sometimes ultra-endurance athlete, and always a very curious human being. My guest today is Rob Jones. Rob is a veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan. After being injured in 2010 in Afghanistan, Rob got a retirement from the military, a honorable discharge, and then he became a adaptive athlete. He then got the bronze medal in the Paralympics. He also rode his bike from Maine to San Diego across the United States, and now he's gearing up to run 31 miles in 31 miles every 31 days, correct?
31 marathons in 31 days straight.
Okay, so they're not 31 miles every day.
Right, 31 26.2 mile marathon.
Okay, check. And that'll be the last time I ever do a bio without everything right in front of me.
Hey, you did pretty good. That confuses a lot of people, actually. So not too bad.
Awesome. So Rob, thanks for being on today. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Oh man, it's a pleasure to be on, and it's an honor for even just to get an invite. So thanks a lot, man.
So right now, as this interview, we're going to drop it before your project starts. So what was the catalyst for this 31 marathons in 31 days? And we'll definitely go back through the other stuff as well. But
do you want to know my reason for doing it? Or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I want to be an example for veterans and civilians. So when I say that, I mean I want to be a person that uses a tragedy or a hardship to their advantage instead of seeing it as something that is a detriment to their success. They see it as a tool to their success. In terms of making their life better than it ever could have been, and making the lives of others around them as good as better. So I want to be an example of that for veterans, and then also for civilians. But I want to show veterans that just because you come back and you're wounded, either mentally or psychologically or physically, it doesn't mean that you can't still be a contributing member of society and a contributing member to your family. And on the civilian side of that, I want to show people that you don't have to be scared of a veteran that comes back, because most of us are regular guys, and we can still contribute.
Yeah, let's rewind a little bit to the injury. Did you always have this mindset, or can you take us back to right after it happened? Like what was the mentality then?
Yeah, I probably didn't have the mindset articulated so well because I've had a lot of time to think about it and, kind of learn from all these lessons and challenges I've had. But I think I probably had this inherently in me, ever since I joined the Marine Corps. But right away, I remember I woke up about 20 seconds after I got hit, And, I didn't know what life was going to be like. I assumed it was going to be, just sitting around in a wheelchair all day, not able to take care of myself and that kind of stuff. So, I wasn't really interested in sticking around. I kind of hoped that I died, but that was a very naive outlook because I didn't even know what I was talking about. So I'm glad that I didn't die, and I'm glad that I was able to make it home.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I think your generation of veterans and injured athletes has definitely, or adaptive athletes, has definitely kind of rewired that thought process to where it used to be this death sentence, and now you see people not just going about life, but actually like thriving and doing some really cool things after they're done.
Yeah, and I was picturing being in a wheelchair, and being in a wheelchair isn't even that bad of a thing either. Because you can still, there's tons of wheelchair athletes out there,
right?
And there's tons of people in wheelchairs that have meaningful lives. So you never when you're ignorant like that of something, you never know what to think. So
sure.
yeah, and yeah, I mean, every day I see adaptive athletes changing the perspective on what it means to be an adaptive athlete and be an athlete in general.
Right. And what were your injuries?
So my main injury was just double above the knee amputation. I was actually below the knee at the site of injury, but a lot of the time infections will result in them having to cut higher in order to save your life, or maybe it was the case that there wasn't enough viable tissue left over for me to be able to wear prosthetics. So for whatever reason, they ended up amputating above the knee. And then, just residual stuff like, flesh wounds to my buttocks, couple of blown out eardrums, a few burns, stuff like that.
Sure. And now I'll be honest with you, I'm incredibly ignorant when it comes to dealing with these kind of injuries. It seems to me from an outsider, if you have your amputation below the knee, running is going to be much more feasible than above the knee. How has that process been, just trying to figure out how to stride and the mechanics behind the whole thing?
Yeah, having a knee makes a big difference. So it's kind of, the longer your limb is, the better off you are. So having a knee is huge. And then when you're above the knee, having a long stump or a long residual limb is huge, because there are people that, only have maybe half of their thigh. And that can be really difficult to even wear prosthetics because you just don't have all that much flesh to attach it to.
Yeah, sure.
And so, I'm lucky that I have two pretty long stumps for being above the knee.
Mm.
But yeah, so when you're above the knee and you're running, there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can replicate the normal gait where you just kind of move your leg forward and backward with a hinge joint and then the running foot attached to it. I don't do that because it just doesn't feel very stable to me. There's plenty of people that do that though. But the way that I do it is I just have, from my prosthetic socket, I just have two straight pylons coming down from each leg. So imagine if you're trying to run without bending your knee, you have to swing it out to the side, because you can't bring it through because you'll just hit the ground.
Right, of course.
Swing it out to the side, and then it loads up the foot when I land, and it kind of bounces me up, and then I swing the other one around. So it didn't take me too long to learn the general gait of how to do it, but, I'm still working on making it efficient and, just like anybody else with their running gait.
Right, of course. Yeah, what about, did you deal with, any hip injuries or anything from that?
My hips have stayed pretty healthy. I haven't had any hip injuries, knock on wood. But, it's all about just gradually building into it, and, it's like any other athlete, you can't just go from relearning how to run with prosthetic legs to running a marathon or something. You may get hurt. So, I slowly built up to it and built up my, the musculature I was using in the hip, the hip connective tissue and all that stuff.
Sure. And that first thing, prosthetic, you were talking about, that actually utilizes a prosthetic joint at where the knee would be?
Yeah, basically it's just a hinge.
Okay.
And so you would look pretty much like anybody else, like an able-bodied, well, similar to an able-bodied person in terms of how you bring your leg forward. But yeah, I just don't like the stability of that, and I like to be able to run fast, so I just don't know. And all the best runners I've ever seen that are double above the knee have used it with the straight pylon, so I just kind of went off of their lead.
Okay. Cool. So let's rewind a little bit. Were you athletic before the military? I mean, obviously the military demands a certain level of athleticism, but actually into sports and...
Not much. As a kid, I was really big into playing baseball, soccer, all sorts of stuff. But I kind of had a late growth spurt in high school. And because of that, maybe I got discouraged from sports, and then I kind of got into other things. And I had taken back up, racquetball and, just a couple recreational sports in college. But I didn't really get back into being physically fit and in shape until I joined the Marine Corps, because, you have the PFT and you have to be in good shape for deployment.
Sure. And then was moving on and becoming an adaptive athlete, was that just kind of part of trying to find purpose in the whole thing, or did you find that you could use that as a platform, or what was it that kind of spawned the sports side of you coming back?
You know what? Ever since I joined the Marine Corps and I went on my first deployment, I had been interested in being an athlete, because the website Jim Jones.
Yeah, the guys that train 300, the cast of 300.
Yeah.
That's kind of how they got popular.
Yeah, so I just read the writings Mark Twight wrote, and it just gave me a lot of interest in the life of an athlete, being an athlete. And so when I got hurt, I knew I was never going to be, I didn't have much chance of being, a high level athlete in much of anything as an able-bodied person. But then when I got hurt, I was looking for something to do that I could work out. And you said, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and try and make the Paralympics in rowing. And, I was able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, not for nothing. Those early Mark Twight essays are fucking awesome.
Yeah, they really are. And they really, I think I'd probably be a different person if I hadn't read them at the right time. And so, it's just serendipity that I read them and then got hurt, and I had that toolbox. Yeah. I had the toolbox of that, and then, what I learned in the Marine Corps at the time. And so the two things combined, and then you see where I am now.
Yeah, and he talks a lot about dealing with adversity and discomfort and some of the, I guess, problems that everyday life leads to if you're not exposed to enough discomfort through life. So yeah, definitely serendipitous.
Yeah, and just being honest with yourself and being honest about where you want to be, and just making. I think what I learned from him most about being an athlete is putting the sport above all else.
What do you mean by that?
So, sacrificing every other aspect of your life for your sport and for your competition. So if you're trying to row for the Paralympics and somebody invites you to a wedding, you have to say no because I need to train, or I need to rest from my training.
Yeah.
Or if I've skipped 3 or 4 Christmases because I was away training. So
wow.
Just stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that discipline, everybody loves to preach about balance, especially now it seems to be in vogue, but that mindset of being able to sacrifice things for what you truly want it's undervalued, I think, in today's society. Yeah,
well, everything has repercussions, so if you're fully dedicated to your sport, you may get a gold medal, but then your wife might leave you, or your girlfriend might dump you or something, and you might suffer, romantically or in your personal life, but it's just a matter of, what's most important to you, and accepting the situation when it comes up.
Right. So going through the Paralympics, and then the next adventure you did was 2014, and that was the bike ride from Maine to Camp Pendleton.
Yeah. I rode, Maine, started in Bar Harbor, ended in Camp Pendleton. It was 5,200 miles during the polar vortex. I don't know if you remember that.
No, what was that?
That was that. It was the winter of 2013, 2014. They had, I don't know, some kind of really, really wintry conditions all over the country. So the Weather Channel called it the polar vortex.
Damn.
Gave it this badass name. So it was during that.
Yeah. So you went from Maine to San Diego. So I'm just picturing this. You had to go diagonal, and you were in the winter months?
Yeah. So I wanted to ride across the country with no buts associated with it. And what I mean is I could go across the country from Florida to Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a valid, trans-American ride.
Absolutely.
I could go across the middle. I could go across the top. They're all valid. However, there would always be this, oh yeah, but you could have done it a little bit harder and gone diagonally, or but you could have done it this, or so I decided, I had to make it as difficult as I could, as difficult as feasible. So I wanted to go diagonally across in the winter and against the wind.
So for the record, I don't know if anybody would be enough of an asshole to actually say you could have done it harder.
I don't think anybody would, but when you're being honest with yourself,
right?
Like what Mark Dwight says, if you're being honest, you know deep down, I could have done a little bit longer. I could have gone a little bit harder on that.
Yeah, and that just says to something about your character that you were willing to question that in advance while you were kind of building this expedition out. So what was that like going through? Can you kind of bring us there a little bit? Going through Midwest in the winter, that sounds fucking terrible.
It was monotonous, man.
Yeah.
It was just day after day after day of waking up, being cold for a while, being uncomfortable for a while, being mostly bored for a while, and that wasn't pleasant. But the thing was, I was doing it for a reason that was more important than me being comfortable or warm or entertained. I was doing it for a purpose. So, all those things just didn't really matter as much as as challenging as they were to withstand.
Yeah, that seems to continue. Sorry, go ahead.
And I was just going to finish, going through the Midwest. I did not realize that America was so hilly. I'll be honest with you. I was expecting, once I got over the Appalachian Mountains, which were a lot steeper than I expected, I figured it'd be, just Kansas until the Rockies, but it's not, man. It's up and down and up and down. And, a lot of people were saying, Kansas would be boring, but it was kind of nice just because it was flat for once. But it's just as whatever terrain I was on or whatever scenery I was experiencing became boring or I got tired of it, I got something new. So kind of kept it fresh for me that way.
Yeah, that's interesting because I would have thought it would be flat as well.
Like Missouri, the Ozark Mountains are so steep, and Kentucky has all sorts of steepness, and once you get to Kansas and eastern Colorado, it is very flat, but then you're dealing with a big ass wind, and so it never relents. It never makes it easy.
Yeah, it's wild because as you told me your route and you're telling me what states you're going through, I'm realizing how piss poor my geography is. Not realizing what states you'd be going through.
So I went from Maine to Virginia, and then I went straight across all the way to San Francisco, and then I went down the coast.
Gotcha.
So it wasn't totally diagonally. It was down the coast, straight across down the coast.
Gotcha. I'm not going to take that from you. And you're from Virginia, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Loudoun County, Virginia, near D.C.
Okay, so that must have been pretty cool too, just kind of going through home.
Yeah, that part of my ride was pretty cool. Because I'm from Virginia. I was born in Maryland, so both those states are kind of special.
And so I have a technical question. How did you keep from kind of slipping out, with the snow once you got into Colorado? I mean, steep. I'm thinking of the descents and stuff.
Yeah. No, I didn't. That's the thing. I was, I was on a regular road bike, and I just really try and be careful. but there was a few times when I got caught in the Ozark Mountains. I stayed ahead of the really, really bad stuff for a lot of it until I got to Missouri. So I never had much ice that I was contending with. But then when I got to Missouri, it caught me. And there was this one section in the Ozark Mountains where I tried for 3 or 4 days straight. I would go to my starting spot and I would hit black ice and I would just slide out. I would hit the ground really hard and slide out. And I would say, well, I just can't ride today. It's too dangerous. And then it was like 3 or 4 days like that. And then another 3 or 4 days when it snowed maybe, 8 or 10 inches and I was stuck in this B&B just waiting for it to clear up.
Okay. How long did the entire journey take you?
It took 181 days total.
Wow. Damn, that is perseverance.
Yeah, I got to California in the spring, and that was just such a relief. Finally getting a warm temperature.
Right. When you got to California, you didn't go to Petco Park at all, did you?
Petco, is that San Diego?
Yeah. The baseball stadium?
Yeah, I threw out the first pitch after I finished at the Padres game.
Dude, I was at that game.
Really?
Yeah. That's crazy.
Okay. So you've seen me before. Yeah, they brought me out and I rode around the perimeter of the field, and they were playing Top Gun.
That's right.
So I rode around, and then I threw out the pitch, took some pictures.
Damn, that's crazy. I remember looking over to my girlfriend. I mean, that like moment is actually like cemented in my mind because I remember I looked over and I was like, dude, what a fucking savage. Like I'm just thinking about doing that in the winter, and I remember like the whole story, like because they gave a brief bio over the PA, and that's wild. That's cool.
Well, I appreciate the compliment.
Yeah. What was and I know you raised a good bit of money. It was like $126,000 or something like that you raised.
Yeah, 126.
What was that for?
Yeah. It was for 3 veterans charities: the Semper Fi Fund, the Coalition to Salute America's Heroes, and Ride to Recovery. All charities that just help veterans get back on their feet and figure out how they're going to contribute to society after they get hurt.
That's cool. How do you go about picking your adventures? Like, how do you go about picking the next challenge, kind of?
Just kind of do something I'm kind of interested in. So it took me 9 months to relearn how to ride a bicycle, and it's pretty rare. There's maybe one other guy in all of America or all of the world that I'm aware of that's a double above the knee amputee that rides a normal bicycle and can, get on it by himself and get off it by himself and all that stuff. So, I was pretty proud of that accomplishment. So I figured I would use it for something one day.
Sure.
When I decided I wanted to do some kind of a big challenge like that, I said, well, why don't I ride my bicycle across the country? Because it's, a lot of people do it. And it would, I figured it could raise a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was interested in riding the bike for a while, and so that's what I did.
That's cool. I've realized as of late, like in the last maybe month, that my 2 favorite things in this world are adventure and Goodwill, and it seems to be that the people that put those things together have the coolest stories, and you're definitely like personifying that.
Yeah, I'd say so, because they're doing it for a reason, and it's always an adventure. So yeah, I'd agree with you.
Yeah, and you alluded to it before, but that having that reason, it's just so much stronger than trying to do it for anything personal.
Yeah, you have to be really vainglorious to overcome the power of doing something for the good of the country or for the good of your brothers. So, I mean, there's nothing more powerful than that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Also, too, I'm just curious, like, did you have to learn to be really patient? Because it seems like, or maybe you were always a patient person, but it just seems like that process, like, of learning how to ride a bike and all these things would require so much patience.
Yeah, I've always been pretty relaxed. But yeah, no, there was a lot of frustration with it. And, but you know what? It's just, you only have so much energy you can put into something, and the more energy you spend, like being disappointed and being frustrated, the less energy you're going to have to actually make progress on it. So I just see it as pointless waste. So I try and avoid those emotions, but I don't always succeed.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Well, and it's good to hear, like, the people that we put up there, like the person in 2014, I was like, oh, he's a fucking savage. He's human too, right? Like, you're dealing with human things just like the rest of us.
Yeah, nobody's 10 out of 10. It's like if you can get 9 out of 10, that's good. So
Right, absolutely. So let's talk about this new project a little bit. Okay, how did you decide 31? Like, what are you raising money for?
I decided 31 because I wanted to do a full month. I thought about lower numbers, but I thought about doing 20 because of the association with the number of veteran suicides. But I didn't think that 20 was enough marathons, and I thought maybe I'll do 50. But then I thought 50 would probably last too long, and people would lose interest, and they'd say, "Well, is that guy still going?" They kind of forget about it.
Sure.
So I figured maybe if I just did it for a full month, I could probably stay in the public eye for a month. And so I no buts associated. I did the long month.
Yeah. And then classic Rob style, just making
31.
it really hard. Because you're going to be in London too, right? It's not just the United States.
Yeah, my wife is from England, and I met her at the Paralympics. And from knowing her, I've met a lot of her friends that are in the military. And so, and it kind of made me realize, or I already knew it, but it just brought home to me the fact that, America is not alone in its battle against terrorism. We have allies that are over there fighting just the same as us, and their veterans are coming home with the same issues as ours.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring that home to everybody and include our allies in my challenge as well, because they are our allies, and I consider all those people my brothers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you run how many, like, has your marathon training been up until now? Like, have you put a few together to see what that's like?
Yeah, it's been going pretty well. So what I was doing was I would do a block of 6 weeks, 6 week blocks of just some kind of certain stress. So I've been using Maffetone method, so I run under 150 heart rate. And I would just slowly, 6 weeks, I would run certain distances and certain sequences, and then I would change that up, make it a little bit harder over the next 6 weeks, blah, 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 and keep going.
Okay.
I ran a marathon, and then I ran 2 after the next 6 weeks, and then I ran 3. And I got up to 5. So I've done 5 in a row. Felt pretty good. I would test, different pacing strategies, different, ways of eating that I'd be able to eat a bunch of food and then the next day not have an upset stomach, and just that kind of stuff. And I didn't do over 5 because I figured if I go over 5, I might as well just keep on going to 31.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of details to manage there in the interim. Like you mentioned, like that's a long time for things to kind of start going wrong.
Yeah.
So is your family going to be with you? Is your wife going to be with you, or what is your crew kind of like in this thing?
So yeah, my team is going to be my wife, who's going to be, my team leader, number 1 supporter, coordinator for media. She's going to be taking care of me by nurturing me as I need it, doing everything.
Yeah, right.
Mom is going to be my massage therapist, because he's a licensed massage therapist. And I'm going to have a driver named Colin, and he's going to be, his whole duty is just to drive and take care of the RV stuff, and then sleep the rest of the time. So there'll be 4 of us, and I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah, that's cool. Are you going to sleep in the RV, get in hotels? What does that look like?
Just we're gonna run and then hop in the RV and drive the RV to the next spot. And so my whole thing is I'm just going to be running my mouth if I have any interviews or anything that people want to talk to me, and then eating, running my mouth with the food.
Yeah.
And then just resting, sleeping. Hopefully I'll be in bed by 8:30 every day.
And so what about the cause? What are you raising money for?
I'm raising money for 3 veterans charities again. Semper Fi Fund, Coalition to Salute America's Heroes, and the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. And they're pretty much the same, same kind of deal as the first three. Actually, two of them are the same. They all have their own way of helping veterans find their new normal, figure out how they can be a part of their family, and just helping them reintegrate into society.
That's awesome. Where can people go to donate?
You can go to donate. You go to robjonesjourney.com, and you can donate there. You can buy T-shirts, a portion of which will go to the charities I'm supporting. And you can also go there and RSVP to come out and run in one of the cities. So I'm encouraging everybody that wants to come out, run full 26.2 if you want to, half of it, 10th of it, 1 mile, I don't care, or just come out and show your support by being there. You can do all those things on my website, robjonesjourney.com.
Awesome. We'll link that up in the show notes. And honestly, Lionheart Radio is going to make a donation. And then I'm going to come up to DC and I'm going to run the marathon with you. And I'm trying to convince some other friends to do it too.
That is awesome. Well, it's turning out to be, I think we're going to have a pretty big group in DC.
Okay.
Because it's the last one. And I think there's going to be a pretty big group. So hopefully the park police don't break us up.
Right. Maybe I'll cruise up to Maryland or whatever the one before that is.
No, whichever one you want, man. Whichever one. I would love to have a huge group for the finish. And I don't think they would ever break us up. So, but come to both. Come to Baltimore. Come to where do you live?
Virginia Beach.
Okay, yeah, you come to Charlotte too if you wanted to.
That's right. Yeah, dude, I'll do it. I'm down. I'm down to support the cause. I love it.
Anyone you're into.
Cool. And how can people support your journey, like through social media and stuff? What are your handles?
All my handles on Facebook, Instagram, Twitters are at Rob Jones Journey, and I'll be updating there, throughout the run. That'll probably be the best way of getting, the day-to-day update. Would be through those three.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and then when it's over, we'll do a quick update podcast so people can hear about how it went. That'll be dope.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah.
Sweet. So the Lionheart Kicker is a final question we ask every guest, and it can be based on all of the life experiences you've had up until this point, fitness, life, whatever you want to talk about. But if you were given a platform and you could give blanket advice and it were guaranteed everybody in the world would hear it and it would be translated to every language, what would you tell people?
I would tell them use the weight. It's what I've learned, and I kind of touched on it at the beginning of the podcast. And it's when you're faced with hardship or a challenge, tragedy, you have one of two options. I treat it like if you had a barbell on your shoulders. So you're doing a strict press, and you have a barbell, and the weight on the barbell is your tragedy or your hardship. And you can either stand there with the barbell and just think about how much the barbell sucks and hurts your shoulders or whatever.
Yep.
Until eventually you're on your knees with the barbell, and then you're on your back with the barbell, and you can't get up because it's on top of you, and you're just totally useless. Or alternatively, you can press that barbell over your head and do a strict press with it, and do it again and do it again. And eventually, if you do that enough times, you'll be able to hold that barbell weight forever, and it's nothing to you.
Yeah. And
because of that, you'll be able to hold even more weight. So more tragedy and even worse tragedies or worse circumstances, you'll be able to put that onto the barbell, put that on your shoulders, and lift that up. And then when you get really good at that, you seek out the weight. So when you can handle just about anything, you have to physically, purposefully look around for ways to make your life harder or make things harder on yourself, so that you can grow and you can become even stronger and just become this unstoppable human being.
Sure. Yeah, I think there's two kinds of people in this world. There's people that are met with adversity and they fold inward, and then there's people that fucking fight back, and it's really cool and inspiring to talk to you because you're definitely the latter.
Yeah, it's just about developing the habit. So your habit might be now when something bad happens or you're faced with a challenge, or something just doesn't go right with your plan, you might just quit, or you might just say, well, it's pointless. Why am I even trying?
Yeah.
And, that might be your habit right now, but you do that, you change your perspective, and you keep soldiering on. You say, well, maybe this is actually a good thing for me. 1 time out of 10, you start to, put marbles in that other hat, and then maybe 2 times out of 10, you just slowly start building that habit until every time that something happens that is detrimental to your progress, you just see it as a tool. And now you're in that habit. Now you just do that automatically.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, I'm excited to see you press back against that barbell for the next month.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Awesome. Rob, thanks for being on today. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Hey, it was an honor to talk to you. I had a look at the time.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening to Lionheart Radio. I hope that the information from today's show will make you fitter, happier, and healthier. For the show notes of this episode and every episode, head to www.lionheartrad.io. Yep, just like Lionheart Radio. And please, if you have the time, head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. It really helps us to know that we're on the right track in delivering you reliable information and value. As always, feedback is welcome. If you have any comments on the show or would like to suggest a guest, send me an email at rick@luavive.com. That's LUAVIVE.com. Thanks for your support, and we will see you next time.
Bitch, I feel good. Don't I look stupendous? My shine is so endless, and shit you can do to end this. Even when I'm dead, niggas still gon' bump that chip shit. Coke, white, Escalade on cinches for you dipshit. So you won't forget this. Midwest nigga be the coldest. Cleveland